Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to Her Journey to Self Podcast. My name is Tamara and I am your host. I am so excited to sit down with an amazing woman today. She is an entrepreneur and a high earning housewife, which we will definitely get into a little bit later. Today, I have Ashley Empowers. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Yes, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for trusting me with your time and your vision because I know how important vision is. Um, First, I want to say congratulations because you have just recently celebrated, I believe, 5 years as a full time entrepreneur. How does that feel?
It's incredible, and honestly, I can't believe that it's been 5 years. But it really does feel like a great accomplishment. Just, I mean, if you know the statistics, most people don't even make it. Most small businesses don't even last 5 years. So I feel like it's an accomplishment.
Yeah, yeah. So, when you first became an entrepreneur, was that something that you set out to do, or was it something that you just kind of fell into?
Oh no, I mean, I've been knowing since a little kid that I wanted to be in business and own my own business. And in fact, when I was 6 years old, I started my first business, and I didn't know that it was a business we were starting. But to kind of give you a little bit of background, I was raised in a home with a single mom who had 4 children, and she was able to provide everything that we needed. But when it came to our wants, we had to figure out a lot of things on our own. And I remember as a little girl, there was a bowling alley right down the street from our home. And just for fun, it was a bowling alley. And then in the alley, there was an arcade. And for fun, me and my sisters would walk down to the bowling alley and literally sit in the like race cars at the arcade and just play, but we didn't have the money to play. So we would just be like pretending. And they had vending machines there. And what inspired us to start a business, I was 6, 7, 8, 9. My older sister had to be about 9 at the time, is because although we couldn't afford to play the games, we could afford to get a little Debbie cookie or whatever out of the vending machine. So that was like our fun, fulfilling treat. We would sell artwork in our neighborhood. We would collect that cash to go to the bowling alley to sit and look at these screens as we're eating a sweet snack. Like that was like so much fun growing up. So yeah, so I didn't set out to become an entrepreneur, but when I was in college, I majored in business. I got my undergrad was in business and administration. I had a minor in international business, and then I ended up getting an executive MBA. And when I was working in corporate America, I always knew that before having children, I wanted to set up my life in a way that if I wanted to be home with them, I could. And so when I got pregnant, my husband was completely in agreement with me being at home with them, but financially, we definitely needed more money coming in. And at the time, I had already started building a brand, I guess you could say. And when my daughter was 6 months, I decided to take a leap and step out on faith and quit my job. And I just went all in. So I didn't know that it was going to come so soon. And I wasn't necessarily fully equipped to make the move, but I had faith, I had confidence. And one thing about me is I'm going to research some stuff, I'm going to look into some things. And the result of that, I ended up 3xing my corporate salary the first year in business. And I just have never looked back.
Wow, that's just so amazing that it seems like this has been a call on your life since you were a child, even when you didn't even realize it. You and your sister were just probably having fun trying to make some extra cash, and look where that has led you today. Speaking of being a mother, what do you think about legacy and how does legacy impact how you operate as a businesswoman?
That's such a great question. Legacy is everything. And I do believe that God has put my husband and I in position to change our legacy through the choices that we're making today. And legacy is so important because I grew up in a single parent household, and I feel like there was a lot of generational curses that I had to break through my personal discipline, my choices, just to ensure that the generations coming after us, they reap generational blessings versus repeating the cycle. And so for us, when it comes to just how we operate as a household and how I operate in business, I always think of my children and the things that I'm consuming and learning when it comes to financial stewardship or investing. I'm learning it knowing that one day I'm going to teach it to them, because my goal is to set them up so they're ahead of the game. My husband and I, we've had to play catch up because we weren't educated in certain areas, and not to say our parents did anything wrong. They just weren't educated. So we've had to educate ourselves, and how that's going to change our legacy is we're going to be able to educate our children, and they're going to be able to educate their children. But so many negative cycles, so many generational curses, they have been broke with my husband and I. And it's incredible to see that when you just make when you literally just rise up and say, I'm going to be the change, God will literally show you and give you wisdom on what to do differently.
Mhm. Does that responsibility of breaking generational curses, does it often feel heavy? I was recently watching a conference, and there was a young woman speaking about, her being the person in her family that's breaking generational curses. It's been a huge topic of conversation, especially amongst us millennials. But she was saying how sometimes it just feels overwhelming because you are trying to change the legacy of your family. So, does that responsibility ever feel heavy to you?
Yes, and that's such a great question. Absolutely. But at the end of the day, if God is calling you to do something, I don't bear the weight of that responsibility on my own. So it's like, if I chose to allow myself to say this is a burden and this is heavy, rather than this is what I'm called to do and God's going to see this, he's going to make sure this comes to pass. It's a different energy. So yes, I've been the person who's been like, "Oh my gosh, like I'm exhausted. Like why can't I just do this?" Or, like I've had the, well, they're doing this, why I got to do something different, but now it's just, it's bigger. It's so much bigger than me. And it's also, it's bigger than me just impacting my children. I've been called to have a platform online that's impacting other women and their children. And, so it's a rippling effect. It's, instead of saying that it feels like a burden or it's heavy, which it can absolutely feel that way, I choose just to really just stay in a space of enthusiasm of the life change and the transformation that can happen when people are exposed to strong, healthy marriages, when people are exposed to managing your finances in a way it's not causing a rift in your marriage, or it's not stressing you out, or you're not having to force yourself to be in a job or in a career that you hate just because you've accumulated all of these material things that you're literally working so you can maintain and try to afford. So I think, just for me at heart, I'm a teacher. That's one of my gifts. I've never been a teacher in the educational field in a classroom, but the platform that I built online, I teach. And so for me, I like to, it's very fueling, I would say. But sometimes when you're, for instance, so my husband and I, was it this year? Yeah, I'm already thinking we're in 2022. This year, 2021, we were able to become debt free. And while we were in that season of being debt free, it did feel a little exhausting. It did get heavy. But now that we're out of it, it is so exhilarating to empower people to be on the same journey. So I guess it's a little bit of both, but I lean more so on the side of have allowing it to fuel me and really keeping my enthusiasm up. So I am excited to pour out and share.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really all about shifting your mindset. Something that I say often, which I think you say this a lot too, is changing your perspective. So instead of saying, I have to do this, I get to do this. So you have the opportunity to create change, not only in your family, but in society as a whole. And I think that that is just a beautiful thing. And speaking of your online platform, I definitely want to talk to you about the high earning housewife. First of all, what does that mean? Because some people might hear that and think that makes no sense. So, can you let everybody know what the high earning housewife, who the high earning housewife is for, and what it's about?
Absolutely. So, the high earning housewife, simply put, is a woman who is the CEO of her business and her home. So, she is able to not only steward her home with excellence, but she's also able to generate high income within her business. And that's exactly what I am. So it's what I call the best of both worlds. And if you're in a position where you want to have a feminine presence in your home, but you also want to have impact in whatever your career field is, I definitely think that developing your craft in a way and creating a home-based business is the way to go.
You mentioned having a feminine presence in your home. What does that mean? Because some women might take that the wrong way and think think something negative. So when you say having a feminine presence in your home, what do you mean?
Yes. Well, I'm trying to think, like, why would somebody take that the wrong way? Feminine presence. A feminine presence in your home means to you're able to show up and serve your husband and your family. And so a lot of time when people are working in corporate America or they're business owners, they don't have a feminine presence. They have a masculine presence, which is a turnoff to most masculine men. So a feminine presence is a woman who's able to be in the company of her husband and still be in her feminine nature and also still show up and cook if she wants to and make sure that her kids are going to their extracurricular activities. And it's really having a focus on the family. Is what I call a feminine presence rather than just in this mode of grinding, making money, climbing the corporate ladder. No, you also have a responsibility to your husband and to your family. And I know a lot of successful women who, when it comes to their marriages and family, it takes a back burner to what they're wanting to build and do. But I'm of a different school of thought where I think you should prioritize those things, not at the expense of building your business, but you can literally do both. But I think it's the proper mindset is to be intentional about making sure that you're present in your home, that you are what I call the CEO of your home, and not saying that you're the leader or anything, but women do. There's things that I do in my household that my husband would never think to do. Like he's not writing out the grocery list. He's not making sure that we have well balanced meals. There's certain things that women do by naturally, I should say, women do naturally. And that's what I call having a feminine presence.
Yeah, and I think what I meant by sometimes people might take that the wrong way. I think it's because of this drive to be, an independent woman, a boss woman. And when you hear like having a feminine presence in your home and serving your husband and serving your family, I think sometimes women can immediately go to the thought, well, that's all I'm good for. But you're a perfect example of that. You're a businesswoman, but you're also a mother and you're a wife, and you're a mother and a wife that enjoys serving your family and letting people know that you can do both. And I think that that is such a beautiful thing. We don't always have to be in such an I'm an independent woman mindset, because as a married woman myself, I definitely depend on my husband and I need my husband. And I don't agree with the fact that, or the idea that no woman should ever need a man. First of all, as humans, we need a village. We need people. We're not meant to do life alone. So I'm so happy that you touched on that and really elaborated on that, really, so women can have the freedom in their femininity, because God created us a certain way. He created us different from men, and it's such a beautiful thing. That does not mean that we can't be bosses. We can't be successful in our careers, um, but also realizing that we don't need to separate that part of us. So I think that that is amazing. You just mentioned that you and your husband became debt free. I know that people want to know how y'all did that.
That is a great question. How, and that's a question I get all of the time. How did we become debt free? First, we made the choice that we were going to be debt free. And then after we made the choice, we created a plan. And what we did was just get very clear on what we owed and to who. So when we started our debt free journey, it took us a little over 2.5 years. We had medical bills, we had student loans, we had two car payments, and we had credit card debt. So our total debt was a little over $126,000, and we were able to pay off it all within 2.5 years. And one of the key ways we were able to do it is through consistently budgeting. So we consistently budgeted. And number two, we were very intentional about increasing our income. And I always like to tell people, there is literally nothing special with us. Like, there is nothing special about us whatsoever. We just literally see opportunities and we go all in. And that's what has allowed us to increase our income. And then that consistency of budgeting. But what I'd like to say is, while we were on this journey, something that I wanted to make sure of is that we were able to enjoy it. Because I read blogs and I'm always studying like the debt free community, and people will sell their car and ride their bike to work, or they won't ever go out to a restaurant, or they'll stop going on vacation. I wasn't trying to do all that. Like, I still wanted to do the things that interest us. We love to have a date night. We love to go to a steakhouse. We love to do these things. But that really was just like, okay, you have to bring in the income in order to do that. So it really has brought my husband and I closer to be working towards a goal together. And it just feels really good not to owe anybody anything.
Amen. Hallelujah. And I know you just set somebody free when you said you still wanted to enjoy life and have fun, because, there is somebody thinking, I can't do anything right now. I mean, of course, have a plan, be intentional, and be responsible. But yeah, try to have some fun during this process, because, what is life if you're just suffering the entire the entire time? Yeah. So what is it like? I mean, because you and your husband, you kind of, I mean, I know you both kind of do your own things as far as business, but there are times where you guys kind of overlap. I know that you do like, well, it's not called 802 Game Time anymore, but you do your YouTube, doing Dating Right show. Yeah. How was that like, working with your husband in business?
Yeah. So how is it? It's not always good. Like, sometimes we get on each other's nerves. I mean, even this past week, he was like, I was like, he was helping me with something. I thought he was about to quit. Like, he was like, oh, Ashley, too much. So it's not always rainbows and roses. Like, sometimes, like, we really do get on each other's nerves. But at the end of the day, being able to have a flexible schedule, or it be midday and we go out to lunch and we don't have a certain time when we need to get back, it's absolutely amazing. And I think for both of us, I have a presence in my home, but my husband also loves to step outside of the office and check on our kids, because we're also a homeschool family. So he's very present in our home. It's not the dad that leaves at 7 in the morning and doesn't come home until 6, 7 at night. Like, my husband, he's very present. So that is a blessing for us. And I mean, especially in the pandemic, like us both being able to be at home and not having to go to a physical location to work was also a blessing. So there are many blessings, but there also has to be boundaries so we don't get so sick of each other.
Right, right. I mean, that's just marriage in general. Sometimes you're going to get on each other's nerves, but then when you add in that you're working together in business, things can get like a little just like my husband sometimes he wants to edit my videos and I know how I want them, but also be like he's a sound guy for film and television. So whenever he's adding sound, he's very meticulous. And I'm just like, babe, just add the background music and it's fine. But no, he is going to like cut it up, make sure it starts at a certain point and it ends at a certain point. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I needed you to have this done an hour ago. So I completely understand. But it is fun, to collaborate and to work together in that way. Do you guys ever get the kids involved in work at all?
Oh yeah, 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 definitely. Because I do work with a lot of brands and shoot a lot of things for social media. They're in so many of the brand shoots. And then recently, my daughter, she's 5, expressed interest in starting a business. So she's like been doing jewelry, and actually, I have on one of my little bracelets that she made me. So yeah, and she charged me $5 for it. So, but yeah, we definitely get them involved.
Wow, that's amazing. Because I was I was gonna ask you, do any of your children um ever talk about, being business owners? And you can just see the fruit of your labor because she charged you $5 for that. Like if you would think that, oh mommy, I made this for you, but she's like, mommy, I'm starting a business and you have to pay for the jewelry. So that is just amazing. Man, if you could think over these past 5 years, what has been the biggest lesson that you have learned on your journey?
The biggest lesson that I've learned is to go harder on yourself than you do on your business or whatever job you're in. So the one of the biggest things is that becoming an entrepreneur, it has so much more to do with growing yourself than doing physical things, right? So I just think it's so important that as an entrepreneur, a leader, that you're 4Xing your learning, that you're leading yourself before you try to lead anybody else. Because I think the best piece of advice that I can get over these past 5 years. And really, I mean, I've been building my brand for the past 9 years, but I actually started to make money in the past 5 years. But anyway, is to really be intentional about developing into a leader that's worth following. Because when you're going hard on yourself and you're becoming a great leader, people are naturally going to want to follow wherever you're going. And so that's the greatest lesson that I've learned.
Yeah, and we often hear self care and soul care and investing in yourself, but what does that actually look like for you? How do you make sure that you are intentional about working on yourself?
Self development and self care, they're kind of two different categories for me. But if you're talking about self care specifically, what I do is I set boundaries around my schedule. So I'm not working weekends, I'm not working on in the evenings unless it's like something, there's no other option. Otherwise, my work is done during the day. I have certain boundaries, certain hours. I'm not on my phone all day and night. And I also read a lot. And that kind of goes into self care and self development. Reading is something that relaxes me and that I truly enjoy. And not only do I enjoy it, that self care, but it also develops me when I'm reading. And so just finding those activities that fuel you. I mean, going on walks in nature, I do it every day. I'm making sure that I'm intentional with my input. So when I say input, I'm talking about the food that I'm consuming, the books that I'm reading, the media that I'm listening to, because all of that everything you input, it's going to come out in a certain form or fashion. So if someone is filling up on candy and junk food all day, that's going to show up in their energy levels, in their waistline. And so I'm really intentional about guarding my input, what I'm consuming, what's coming into my body, what's coming into what I'm consuming spiritually, making sure that I'm spending time with the Lord, even if it's 10 minutes a day. Like, I'm just like, let me fuel myself with the things that I need that allows me to be energized, that allows me to relax, and that allows me to develop as I'm on this journey.
Yeah. And I'm so happy that you mentioned boundaries because I think that's something that many people, not even just entrepreneurs, but people struggle with in general. But especially when you're building something, building a brand, building a business, and saying, I'm not going to work evenings. I'm not going to work on the evenings, especially when you have a family at home, because there's this societal pressure that you have to grind, grind, grind. And if you take a moment's off, your business is going to suffer. But I think it's such an amazing thing to really set those boundaries because, like you said, you need to be able to fill yourself up before you can go and fill other people up. And that's a very important lesson that I think many people need to learn. I believe 2020 started to awaken a lot of people to that. But there's still that hustle mentality out there.
No, oh yeah, definitely. I mean, and sometimes you have to be in hustle mode. Like, that's understandable, but I just don't think people should live in that place. But I recently read a quote that said, I'm no longer in the business of lighting myself on fire to burn in order to keep other people warm.
Wow. Can you read that one more time?
I am no longer in the business of lighting myself on fire to burn in order to keep other people warm. And a lot of time we feel that pressure to show up, to do because we're trying to reach people. But if you're having to set yourself on fire just to keep them warm, that's not the play.
Mm. Yeah, that's perfectly said. Perfectly said. So take care of yourself. Ashley, it's been such a joy to sit and talk with you. You dropped a lot of gems, which I expected. Can you let everyone know how they can get in touch with you, or even maybe if they want to work with you in the future?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm at Ashley Empowers on everything. And listen, something that I truly believe in is when God has called you to do something, that you are showing up consistently. But a lot of time people lack momentum to keep them really fueled on their journey and their assignment that they're called to do. So something new that I'm doing this upcoming year is every month I'm doing what's called the PhD in Me challenge. So the first 3 days of every month, I am going to be taking you through a challenge to help you jumpstart your month, have momentum to really carry you out through the month, to really just be on fire for what God has called you to do. So if you're interested in joining the PhD in Me accountability group, you can join by going to ashleyempowers.com/PhD in Me. Now, for those of you who are like, why is it called PhD in Me? It goes back to what I kind of mentioned earlier in the interview about going harder on yourself than you are on your job or you are on your business. A lot of people think their next step to success is getting another degree, and although I do believe in formal education, the self education is what's going to literally set you apart from people. It's going to set you apart. And so essentially you're getting a PhD in yourself. So it is going to happen January through November. It's completely free, and you can join by going to ashleyempowers.com/PhD in Me.
And I will say that it is an amazing challenge. I did the first one that you did a few months ago. I invited a friend too, and she was like, "Oh, thank you so much for inviting me." She's like, "I really enjoyed it because it was just tangible information, tangible daily practices that you can really just implement in your life to be intentional about taking care of yourself, mental, physical, spiritual. So, yes, definitely sign up for the PhD in Me challenge. It is well worth it and it's free. Okay, it is free, guys. So I'll be sure to leave all of Ashley's information in the show notes. This is an episode you definitely want to go back, rewatch, re-listen to, take some notes, and of course, follow Ashley on social media because, like I said, she is always sharing valuable information. So thank you guys so much for tuning in for another episode. Remember that your testimony is not for yourself, it is for the world. Until next time, peace, love, and light.